Hey y'all, it's your girl Toyia T, and today we have a great episode sponsored in part by CET and PBS stations. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mama K's COVID chicken noodle soup. We are embarking upon the fall season. I know you guys have seen that COVID is starting to creep back up. So if you have anybody that's sick, make sure that you reach out to Mama K and give them some COVID soup. Bring them a little bit of, I don't know, healing power through that soup. But today our show is about immigration, and it's a topic that can be very polarizing. But I really wanted to tell these stories because I've talked to several people about immigration, and I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions. So I wanted to bring a couple of people that I know personally that have immigrated here to the United States and have them tell their stories. And hopefully we can provide some resources for others that might be looking to immigrate to the US or have already come here and are just looking for ways to make the transition easier. So with that, I will welcome them in. Come on in. Hello, ladies. Hello. It's
Hello.
so great to have all of you. And it's so funny. I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, these women represent different parts of my life. So Savannah and I met in high school. Nelia and I met in grad school. And then Jennifer and I met after school. So when I was like grown and like way on my way, right? So I'm excited to have all you guys to join in the conversation. I want you to just do a brief introduction. We'll just go in like a round robin. We'll start with Savannah. Just tell us who you are and how you came to be here.
You said tell who I am and how I got here?
Yes, just a little bit, just a quick introduction.
Oh, okay. So my name is Savannah and I am from Cambodia. And I got here, I came to America as a refugee.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to hearing more about your story, and we're really glad to have you tonight.
Thank you.
Nelia, do you want to go next with a quick intro?
Sure. My name is Nelia Cruikshank. I came here from Zimbabwe, Africa, and I'm a CEO for Clovey Corporation, an investment firm that focuses on real estate and supply chain.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you, Nelia. Looking forward to hearing your story as well.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Jennifer, do you want to do a quick introduction?
I'm happy to be here, Toya. My name is Jennifer Hidalgo. I'm originally from the Dominican Republic. Been living in the States for about 10 years and had the amazing pleasure of meeting Toya somewhere among the way, and she has welcomed me here.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you as well. And again, looking forward to hearing all of your stories and really just shedding some light on the immigration journey and what we might be able to do in terms of resources to make that process easier for other people. So I want to start with the question around what was your immigration story? When did you come to the US? And what was that experience like for you? So whoever wants to go first that you feel like, you know what, I can answer that question, no problem.
Go ahead and repeat the question one more time for me, Toya.
What is your immigration story and when did you come to the US?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started since I was the last. So, a little bit about my immigration story. Like I previously stated, I'm from the Dominican Republic, so the Caribbean. I came into the States when I was 14 years old. So, with me, I was one of the lucky ones, and my mom was able to bring me and my brother after a year of process, applications, um, tests, and just the ups and downs that comes with the immigration process. She was able to come here into the States first. However, because of these applications and how long it took, she had to leave me and my smaller brother back in the state in Dominican Republic until she get like our application together. That was the process. Me and my brother had to stay all by ourselves with people that we barely knew back home until she got that together, which was very tough. But eventually, like I said, I was one of the lucky ones. Our process only took a year to get finalized, and we were able to move back with our mom in the States. Then after that, after maybe 2, 3 years, I was still a minor. I was just about to turn 17. She became a US citizen, and I was able to gain and benefit out of that citizenship next to with my small brother too. So we both became US citizens through them.
So when you came at first, what was that? You were on a green card or?
Yes. So when we came into the States at first, we came with a permanent residence card.
And that would allow you to stay for how long typically?
That will have allow us to stay for 10 years. So every 10 years, we have to reapply for the green card, which let's say if I got my green card when I was 14, I will have to reapply when I was 24 and just pretty much do the whole application process all over again. Send all my documentation and wait until they approve me or deny me if I didn't become a U.S. citizen.
Okay. And so since your mom became a citizen, then that gave you the ability to become a permanent citizen? Is that?
Yes. So since I was a minor when she became a U.S. citizen, I was barely touching 17, which is a privilege that get cut off at 18. Luckily for me, she was able to, as soon as she came to the States, she started like moving the applications and got really good lawyers on her side to make the process a little bit easier because, as many of you can know, is a long process full of applications, full of details, and also sometimes they will deny you, deny you, deny you until they eventually approve you. But I was lucky and I was able to have her to become a US citizen right before I turned 18.
Okay.
Next to with my brother as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's very interesting. And I think we'll dig in a little bit more as we go along. What about Nelia or Savannah? How did you guys come to get here and what was your experience? Was it
Um,
similar to?
it wasn't similar, but kind of similar as far as like us. We were allowed here to the United States on a green card too, as well. But I was, me and my family, like I mentioned earlier, we came to America as refugees because we experienced a war that happened back in my country in Cambodia. So during that war, I don't know if you guys ever heard of like the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So it was a war just as bad as that, where hundreds and thousands of people died in Cambodia. And so 8 of my brothers died during that war to try to protect our family. My dad, he played dead with the dead bodies. So he was able to escape that way because they thought he was dead. One of my brothers did escape too as well. So my parents had 13 children. And 8 died during the war. One was able to escape, and then my sisters, they were put in the kids camp. My mom was put in a women's camp, and then my dad eventually one night he came with some other Cambodians that also escaped too. So he came to rescue my mom and my siblings from the camps when the soldiers were asleep, and they escaped through the jungle. And when they escaped through the jungle, it wasn't easy because the soldiers had set up mines, so that also blew up. And my mom also witnessed a mine blowing up in front of her. Now, other Cambodians that was around her, they died, but she knew it was a God that moment because she did not die, and she was also pregnant with my brother that is a year older than me. So my dad was also tagging. He was a little further because he was he had my sisters who were 9 and 10 years old at that time. So he was like getting them to catch up, and my mom was walking ahead. And so when the mine blew up, she did not die. So when the soldiers will come and find them, they learn to hide in the water, to hold their breath until it was clear, until they didn't hear any more noise, and then they came out from the water. So it was a journey for them to get through the jungle to finally reach Thailand. And then my brother, she made it. So my brother was born in the refugee camp in Thailand, and then a year later, I was born. So I didn't go through the war. Me and my brother didn't go through the war as my siblings did, but we were both born in the refugee camp. And so American people heard about it. And so my family was also the lucky ones who were blessed, because a group of college students raised money to sponsor our family to come to America. And then we were on a green card. So that's how we came to America.
Wow. And so what war was it? Like what year? And can you
It
tell us a
was
little
the
bit?
Khmer Rouge War. So it's spelled Khmer, Rouge, Rouge, War. And it was in the late 70s and early 80s. So I came to America as a baby. So that's why my accent is much, I don't think I have an accent, but I speak much better English than my oldest sisters. They all have an accent. My mom has an accent. My dad died when I was 6 years old. When he came to America, he died when I was 6 years old. So he's no longer in our life, but he had a strong accent too. Actually, him and my mom didn't speak English. When growing up, they only spoke Cambodian to us. So when I had to learn English, it was my mom. She wanted to make sure I was able to learn English. So she put me in front of the TV, and it was My Little Care Bear and My Little Pony. It was My Little Pony and Care Bear is what taught me how to speak English. So when I got to school, I was able to understand it. And so I went to like a prominently Black elementary. So my language is kind of slang. So I learned English. I learned English from my surroundings as well as watching TV, and I was able to understand it that way.
Absolutely. Well, that's interesting. And I hope people will research that war, because I think it's, something that people aren't aware of, to
So
learn about.
my oldest son, he's a sophomore, but last year in the 9th grade, he was taught that in school. So it is being taught now.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
You're
Nell,
welcome.
what about your immigration story?
Sure. I just want to start by saying thank you so much for bringing the immigration topic to the forefront. It is such a paramount topic in our society today. America is a fabric of immigrants, literally.
Right.
And we're all here and get to do what we do in our lives because we have or somewhat realized the American dream. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
The way I want to kind of position my story is this. When I came to the US in 1999, towards the end of 1999 into 2000, the American dollar and the Zimbabwean dollar was one US equivalent to $2 of the Zimbabwean dollar. Now in 2023, one US dollar can fluctuate anywhere from 6,000 up to 10,000 Zimbabwean dollars. If that gives you a synopsis of how the economic landscape of a lot of African countries have become, which is what has driven a lot of the immigration that you may see in different parts of the country. And with that said, how my story started in 1999, when it was time to go to college after we finished high school. In Zimbabwe, being a country that was colonized by the British, we actually grew up speaking English. While I may have an accent, English was always somewhat of a primary language in our home, among other places in the country. There's many dialects as well as languages that are spoken in the country, but English is somewhat of a universal language as well. With that said, when it was time to go to school, because my brothers were already here, and not only that, Harare, which is the capital city for Zimbabwe, is a sister city for Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where you're located, Toya. So there has been a lot of immigrants from the country where I grew up, which is Zimbabwe, that are located in Cincinnati partially for that very reason. But the primary reason is economical. So when it was time for going to college, my parents applied what is called an F1 visa. I know a lot of people may be familiar with that. It is a student visa. They give it to you. Sometimes it's 2 years long, 4 years long, depending on the university you're going to and how they're sort of giving away those visas at their various embassies. Quite honestly, it all goes back to who is the president, what kind of administration we have, Republican versus Democrat. All those things do influence what happens at the embassies. So I received the visa, came here in 1999, went to undergrad. My father wanted me to do medicine. And I'm sure a lot of African kids might share those kind of stories as well. But when I came, I have always had a ability to be able to connect with folks. So I wanted to be in a business realm, something to do with business, not becoming a physician. That was just not my thing. So I ended up doing my undergrad in marketing. And towards the end of my undergrad completion, I then applied for what is called an adjustment of status because of what was happening in our country politically. At that point, we had a president whose name is Robert Mugabe. Some of you may have heard of him or not. I'm not very political, but I know enough about it to be able to share. And during that time, there were just a lot of political unrest going on. And as a result, I applied for what is called an asylum. When you go through a process that's similar to a refugee because you're applying for an asylum. You cannot necessarily go back to your original country because things are not safe and things were starting not to be safe. They've gotten worse even now. So there's a lot of people that are migrating from the different African countries because of the instability. It might be an economical reason, but politics is what is influencing all of that. So fundamentally speaking, politics influence economics, which is influence a lot of people to live here, which is why I'm in the US more full time than I would love to be back home in Zimbabwe.
And so, Nelia, can you go back to Zimbabwe?
I can now because I'm a citizen. However, it is very difficult to just kind of go out in the open, right? You can't just fly back and forth. We just had an election this year. And if you guys get a chance, please Google this. Hopefully nobody comes after me. But we just had an election this year. It was not a fair election. It was not a free election. There were two parties. Just like we have Democrats here and Republican. They had their elections and someone apparently won. Whether that is verifiable or not, I don't know. I don't sit in the parliament. But there's a lot of quarrels in the country because the same party that has been in power since the original party was there, which is essentially the same party since I was born in 1980. It has been the same political party that has always, ran the country. So you can imagine, how that affects everyday citizens, how they cannot even afford to have food. And as a result, we all become part of the immigration story in the US because everybody's looking for a better life.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. This next question, I'm going to make it a two-part because I know that we only have like 10 minutes left. I want to know what the biggest misconception is about immigration and if there was anything that might have improved or made your immigration story easier, like improve the experience for you. So if we could try to do it as a two-part, the biggest misconception and if there's anything that could have made the transition easier.
I would say for me, the biggest misconception is that, foreigners come to America to take Americans' job and or we're like gangsters or we sell drugs or and that we are given money to start our own businesses. And, those are all not true. My family and I grew up poor. We were poor. When I mean poor, yes, we've experienced poorness. So we didn't have money, and the jobs that because my parents didn't speak English and didn't have the education in America, they were only able to get like housekeeping job or factory job. So back then, they were only getting paid $5 an hour. So it wasn't. I would say that is like one of the biggest misconceptions for me that I hear often, like, you guys own gas stations and things like that. I'm like, no,
Right.
we're given that opportunity. We have to work hard for anything we have. So. Mm-hmm.
And what do you think would have made the transition? I know you came as a baby, but you probably have other people that have made the transition Is there anything that you would recommend that might make the transition easier or in terms of
I think that
process?
with connecting with people that, so our sponsors connect us with resources and also people that was helpful. So we originally lived in Orlando, Florida, but my parents were so homesick and they heard of a large Cambodian community in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's how we moved here. So connecting them connecting us with resources so that we could have a roof over our head and be included with like some of our peoples. We were able to help each other.
Okay, so trying to find a group that you can connect in with that are like-minded and are maybe from the same area.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Nelly or Jennifer?
I would say I want to agree with the point that she brought up. Number one, I think within the immigration pool, right, there's subsets of immigrant. I, being an African, may represent the majority applicants. Africans. One of the things that I hear on the streets is that Africans sometimes have a lot of arrogance, right, as immigrants. And it really is not arrogance. Where we grew up, for the most part, whether you have food today, food tomorrow, we are taught to have confidence in ourselves. Whether you go to bed hungry or you wake up with food or you wake up with no food. Identity is one thing that I think because of the way our cultures are, from the day you're born, you have to live that every day. So even as you leave your environment and you come to a place like America, you don't necessarily lose that identity of understanding who you are because you're in a different environment. So the way people carry themselves, because a lot of Americans aren't used to that, could come across as someone is arrogant. But that self-confidence is something the local African culture and society really instills in their people from when you're born, and we get to live with that. As far as the latter question that you asked, what could have made the transition a lot easier? I think one of the motivational speakers I listened to once in my life in the past has always said, having knowledge is one thing, but applied knowledge is when it becomes powerful. Um, for me, when I came to America, I think there was a lot of information being thrown at me. For example, there was a particular class I remember I took where you have to learn English as a second language. They taught you, it was an international class. They taught you some of the, lingo that is used in America. I don't even remember some of those words because they're becoming natural to me now. But they were just helping you to segue into the culture, right? But in that information came not just even from the classroom, but from the outside world, trying to understand this new norm that I have as a person. But how do I take that and make it applicable to what I need to do when I may not even know what I'm supposed to be doing? So I think there was a very difficult time, not even just I think, I know for a fact, there were things I could have done better sooner, but because I did not know any better, either I didn't have the right coaching, the right mentorship, the right way to just be able to assimilate into the culture. I may have the information, but the how to use it wasn't as done effectively well. So there was a lot of time lost that I've had to play catch up on, that I now in a lot of our communities, we all try to help each other to sort of segue into America and embrace it as fast as you possibly can. So you don't miss out on the opportunities. And it doesn't always equal to money. Just missing out how to network with people, missing out how to go and apply for a job and prepare for an interview. Simple things like that. It's a different world, different rules. They say when you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do. That sometimes we have always not done well.
Right, right. Absolutely. What about you, Jennifer?
I do want to point out how grateful I am for the points that Nedia and the other hosts has made. To answer your first question, I feel like the biggest misconception that I hear and I have heard ever since I moved to the United States of America is the reason why a lot of immigrants move here. War is the simple way to put it. We have been through war and wars, which has destabilized so many countries, so many of their resources, right? That will be the main reason why we move here. And no, it's not to take jobs, it's not to take opportunities away from Americans. If anything, the opposite. We don't want to do anything but add. If you look at the statistics, the crime rates are rising everywhere, and that's one of the consequences that comes with war. People are going to immigrate, people are going to lack in resources. Third world countries such as myself, Dominican Republic, and the Caribbean overall, Haiti, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, are right now going through destabilization that comes with that. And I would say, to answer your second question, what resource do I think will be life changing? That will sum up with conversations. Conversations like this, people not shying away from bringing the topic up and actually being open and vulnerable towards this situation, towards the conversation, towards the topic. I feel like it would make such a huge change. Because at the moment, thousands and thousands of immigrants are living in the darkness, still contributing to the American society, still paying taxes, still going to work in farms and sun up to sundown to make sure that humbly we can take care of our family, humbly we can pick the crops and do the jobs that are, if we're being honest, not being compensated well enough, right? We are living in the darkness because we are shy that someone is going to come for us, that we're going to put our family at risk. But when these conversations are being having in the open live, like this channel, correct? Which I was very thankful for you, Toya, that invited us here, because I feel like there's not, even though the conversation is being had, we can always escalate at the level that we're having this conversation.
Well, I appreciate you guys being here to just impart some knowledge on our audience so that people are a little bit more well versed on the topic and that people can hear from real people behind different scenarios of immigration. We have in the last 2 minutes, I'd like to allow you to give any parting words and contact information if there is somebody that feels like, maybe I can be a resource, maybe I can be a mentor. Um, if you want to give any parting words or any contact information.
I will go ahead and get started with that. So, my first language is Spanish. Ever since in high school, I have made it my mission to be a resource of anyone and everybody that is looking for words of encouragement, that light at the end of the tunnel for whatever situation it might be. Someone that is looking for any vulnerability, I'm here for it. Again, my name is Jennifer Hidalgo, and you can contact me at Jennifer, JENNIFFER, Hidalgo, HIDALGO, V as a Victor, at gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Toya, for the time we've had this evening. My general parting words are that everyone in the human race was created by God, regardless of your religion. And at the end of the day, when we're out there on the streets, we're people, human beings, different races, different colors, different skill sets. Our differences is what makes us better. When we're out there and you're seeing an immigrant who just got out of the caravan from Mexico or wherever, they're still a human being. Let's learn to extend grace. You don't know what someone is going through. There is a lot of mental health that is happening within the immigration community, to Jennifer's point, because of not having the platform to be able to talk about the things that are going on with them. And for that reason, I just want to be encouraging to everyone. Reach out to your community. A lot of us have sub communities within these large communities. Don't shy, because you don't want to wake up tomorrow dead in your bed and no one even knew what was going on with you, because that is the reality of what happens in America. With that said, my contact information is very simple. You can look me up on one of my websites, which is www.clovic, clovic.health.com, CHLOVIC health.com. All my contact information is available through that, and you can always reach out. And I also, as I said, I also in the real estate space, I can be able to help in any way I can in those capacities, and most importantly, immigration as well. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I also want to say that, you know, regardless of where you're from and your background, to be proud of who you are. And, you know, don't be ashamed of it, because like Nelia mentioned, that we are all unique and we all come from God. So, you know, to be proud. But I also work in the mental health field. I am the bereavement director. And I also help with grief support and mental health. So I can also be contacted at companionsonAjourney.org.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. And I'm so glad that you came to share your story. I did reach out to several people from Mexico, and unfortunately, a lot of them were very, hesitant to get on camera and tell their stories. So I just hope that we can embrace our immigrant community and be a resource to help the next person live a happy, healthy life as they transition into the United States. So thank you again, and I hope you guys have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Toyia.
Thank you.